Hey everyone, welcome back to The Wilder Ride, Getting Wilder by the Minute, a podcast where we are celebrating the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. And for our second season, we have been looking at the film Blazing Saddles, and today we look at minute 89, 1. Then we'll settle this like men with our fists, minute at a time. I'm your host. I'm Alan Sanders.
I am your co-host, Walt Murray.
And joining us one last time, we have Chris Corman. If that name is familiar, well, first of all, you've been listening, hopefully, to the last 3 minutes of this week, but he is the son of Harvey Corman. Welcome back, Chris.
Oh, thank you, guys. Welcome. I'm glad to be back. I love doing this. This is a lot of fun.
I enjoy, we're giving you insights to parts of the movie that you didn't know, but you're giving us insights to the background and what it's like to have had Harvey Corman as a father figure for your life, and it's been really cool to have you share.
Well, I'm learning as much from you guys as you learned from me, because the stuff you have told me in our segment is like, really? Wow, I didn't know that. And I think that would make a great book for you guys to do, is what you guys are doing, because it has that. I didn't know that quality. And for people who really love films, this is a great site for people who love films.
Well, I would do a book, but that's a lot more work than a podcast, and the podcast is already too much work. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I know, but it's like, the fact that no one has come up with this idea of breaking down a film of a certain person is amazing, but you guys are doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
So
we appreciate it.
It's a great concept. It really is.
We love what we do, and there are a bunch of other folks that like to do it with their own genres and other titles, and we're just lucky that we had Gene Wilder all to ourselves.
And you really couldn't ask for a better individual subject for this.
Absolutely. He truly was a tremendous human being. I mean, just a very smart, very erudite person. Shy a little bit. I've heard that he was very shy in many ways. But mostly often great, brilliant people are shy. They keep their brilliance to themselves until they have to share it. So
that's what I do. I keep my brilliance to myself.
I keep it down deep, way deep.
I keep it hidden from everyone.
In fact, even from myself. I sometimes forget where I put it.
The universe has no idea that I am brilliant.
Well, my wife said to me, unless I purge everything that's inside me about my father, she's putting me in a home for actors of wayward children who cross-dress on television. So it'll be me, Jerry Lewis, Dustin Hoffman, John Ritter, and B. Arthur. I'm sorry, not B. Arthur. I always assume she's a cross-dresser. Sorry. I get those subjects mixed up sometimes. I can't do that joke in front of too many people because I don't know if somebody from her family is listening. So.
We'll let you know if they let us know.
You will be the first to know if we get a lawsuit.
Well, no, he'll be the second to know. We'll be the first to know. Like,
Okay, dear. If you have to cut that out, so be it, whatever.
I won't do that until later.
Well, the good thing is that no lawsuit's going to go after us because there are no deep pockets here.
Blood from a stone, buddy. All right, well, let's set the table for where we are today. We are minute number 89. We are very rapidly closing into the waning minutes of the movie, but there's a lot still to cover, and in this minute, we've got the scene starting off with a woman saying, "Look, Herman, I'm in Hedy Lamarr's shoes." And in the background, we hear Hedley as Hedy Lamarr goes walking by, and we end with Hedley getting shot in the doodads. You wrote this, Walt.
I know.
You wrote this. I'm reading from your script.
Doodads?
You wrote I didn't write that. Or did I?
I think that was you.
Maybe I corrected you.
I would say you probably changed balls to doodads.
Do you want me to repeat what I said before about had those been real bullets, I would have lots of relatives and more money?
Well, we had that in the last minute, so we're all good there.
Good, because I have to say that is really true. The thing about that whole thing is when he goes into the lobby of the theater, why are there bulls or bison in the lobby? Really?
That's been the running gag through this whole movie, though, right? Well, I mean, we saw him in the back of the church. We saw him in the bar.
Right.
So why wouldn't they be in the movie theater?
It makes total sense.
I mean, plus, don't they do this with promotional movies? Like, they bring out, like, stormtroopers when they're going to do a Star Wars movie.
Absolutely.
They'll bring out people, like, they were walking around, like, in downtown London, they had a bunch of people looking like the folks from Game of Thrones, the White Walkers, to tease the coming of Season 8. So, of course, you got to have, cows grazing in the movie theater.
Absolutely. So, so
but
it must have been
movie
premiering.
theater, really?
What was opening
I
night?
mean, you have children. What if children are? What if a child is? I mean, never mind. Well,
Well, it's 11 p.m. What child goes to the movie that late, right?
Exactly. Except for mine.
Well, my dad has. I don't know which worse, working with bison or Cloris Leachman. I can't figure it out. Which one's more dangerous? I can't figure it. You got to ask the bison. But I'm sorry. I'm just letting it flow today.
Well, before we get inside the lobby, let's go ahead and get this opening little bit of dialogue, because it's going to be completely different from the script. We start off with a woman who, and the famous thing behind Grumman's Chinese Theater, would then turn into Mann's Chinese Theater. Now you said it was what, the LTC or TLC or some other SPLC, WLD, WD-40,
WKRP.
WD-40 Theater.
The big thing about this theater was famous Hollywood folks would be invited to put their footprints and their handprints into the concrete blocks, so so that way forever immortalized outside the theater. Mm-hmm. And so people would often, when they're going to there, and tourists do this all the time, they go look at them all and decide what shoes you can fit in and what hands you could fit in, and say, "Oh, look, my hands were the same size," or whatever. So we've got a woman who we don't see her what she's looking at. She just looks down and goes and says, literally,
"Look, Herman, I'm in Hedy Lamarr's shoes."
And she's obviously talking about the actual actress.
Right.
But Hedley, who's now in 1974, he's out of time. When he hears that, he corrects her like he's been correcting everybody.
Hedley.
Of course.
As he goes diving in.
And he did that in real life. He did that in real life. He would just walk down Wilson Boulevard. It's Hedy. No, it's Hedley. I mean, it's amazing how many times people said that to my father. It's not Burnett Show. It's not the Gazoo thing. It's always, it's Hedy. No, it's Hedley. I think my dad is so incredibly affiliated with Blazing Saddles, probably more than any other role he's ever done. I don't know if that's good or bad, but as long as it helped his pocketbook, I don't think he really cared.
No. And in the shot here, it's so fast, he's literally like run walking in as he's saying it.
Yes.
The husband, Herman, looks over his shoulder as Hedley hands over his ticket stub to the ticket taker and goes straight inside the theater. Now, we will go to the lobby in a second, but let me go ahead and tell you what the script had. In the script, instead of it being a husband and wife, we have a tourist, and it says a tourist man. And it says, "Hey, mother, come over here. I found Hedy Lamarr." Hedley does a take and realizes, they may be talking about me, and pulls a hat down. So I don't know where the hat came from. Pulls a hat down over his eyes. In the meantime, we hear the tourist mother say, "I can't. I'm stuck in Greta Garbo's shoes."
That makes no sense.
No sense at all.
That out.
Look, stuck inside the shoe prints.
Yeah, it makes no sense at all.
And then we have him trying to make his way to the front. Now, this is all supposed to be as he's still making his way to the counter. Lamarr says, "It's all right. It's on me." Lamarr picks the little old lady up, throws her over his shoulder, and runs into the theater. Lamarr handing the ticket taker his tickets. "We're together." Little old lady hanging over his shoulder says, "Nobody cares. Nobody ever cares. And then finally, somebody cares, and he's dangerous."
Oh, my God. Thank God Mel didn't do that.
Oh, we're not done. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
We're not done.
Let it go, man.
Cut to the lobby of the theater. Hedley Lamarr, with little old lady draped over shoulder, runs past a few cows milling about. Goes to the candy counter. Lamarr drapes little old lady across the candy counter and continues on into the theater. Little old lady looking down at candy. "Look at that. $2 for Neckos. That's outrageous." Then we cut into the theater, which will be just like we get in a minute here. So, from what Chris is sounding like, and Walt, based on your expression you're giving me, can we all agree that that was a big steaming pile of cow shit?
Darn.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
That was. And what's funny is since we are talking about, unless we're not up to that minute yet, the whole idea of running to a theater, you're being chased by a black guy on a horse, and you stop for Raisinets? Really, Mel?
Well,
this what makes me laugh. And he told Larry King this. No matter how bad things are getting in your life, even if you're being chased by a sheriff, you have to stop for Raisinets. That's Mel's thinking.
Well, it makes a whole lot more sense than the whole thing of picking up an old lady and throwing her over your shoulder and
we're together
throwing her over the counter. I mean, that's nonsensical.
and this is the only way something like that might have worked, if he caught Bart out of the corner of his eye and was using the old lady to shield who he was.
Right.
But even then, that's going to draw a whole lot of attention to yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. But, that's just, supposedly, I don't know if this story is true. Did Mel make a deal for Raisinets?
Well, since that's
goobers.
Yeah, since you're jumping into that, which is what we actually have in the scene, is he does go across the lobby. We do see the cows milling about. And he does go, and this was kind of a throwaway line. He just went to go order, and rather than going with Necco's, which I don't know how many people would know that name brand or that old style of candy, he just said Raisinets. It was a total. This is the time before there was a lot of really lucrative deals for endorsements. Mel Brooks later went on to tell in an interview in Playboy that ever since this movie and using that line, he gets a case of Raisinets delivered to him every month from the company because of him using that line, that the Raisinette sales went through the roof.
No kidding.
That everybody felt like, okay, we're going to see Blazing Saddles or we're going to the movies, let's buy Raisinets, just like Hedy Lamarr.
That is interesting.
Thank God he said Raisinette and not prunes.
I don't know how many movie theaters serve prunes. Where do you go to the movies?
No, but can you imagine having a year supply of prunes? Mel and Ann would never gotten back into bed together after that. Talk about a shitty deal. Sorry,
well,
that was awful.
I don't think that anybody, no matter what happened here, would have said, "Oh, let me go buy a box of prunes," because.
Yeah, but Raisinets. If he'd said another brand, he could have said something where he was on the brand of something that's really obscure. And so I'm sure Mel could have thought of a different brand, but now he's got, 4,100 boxes of Raisinets to get through before he dies?
Well, I'm sure he gives them out
for Christmas presents.
Yeah, everybody gets a box. Everybody in the company gets a box in their Christmas stocking. So
right, everybody that comes and visits me at my house gets to leave with a year's supply of Raisinets because I'm going to unload this shit.
Well, and I love you make a comment. You made the comment about why would he stop? But it looks like, and I think this is a funny little trope about just going to the movies. Like everybody needs to buy something. Because he looks like he's going to make the beeline for the theater, and then he goes, oh, wait, a snack. And he goes and he dives over to the counter and then says, Raisinets, like as fast as he can. And they give him the box, and he goes into the movie theater. So, I think this was either an improv that your dad came up with, or Mel just said, well, just pick a candy and go with it. It wasn't in the script. They never call that out. They called out Necco's.
That was Mel's thing. That's Mel's thing. Mel said to my dad, no matter how bad things in life, you can be chased down by a sheriff or the world's coming to an end, you have to stop for Raisinets. And Mel just thinks that's the funniest thing in the world, that the world could be coming to an end and you're going to stop for a box of Raisinets. So my dad said, okay, so I'm going to say that to the guy behind the counter. I said, that's it, Raisinets. And that is like everybody's one of the favorite lines of the movie. I'm like, why? It doesn't make sense, but for Mel, it makes sense because Mel has a warped sense of reality.
I don't know. Ever since I've been a kid, I always saw that as part of the box candies you could get, they've always had Raisinets, and it could very well be because they stock it now because of this movie.
Could be.
To this day, you can still get Raisinets in the theater. Let me ask this: do you guys like Raisinets?
You're not in the theater yet, right?
Not yet. No, hold on. Before we do that,
okay.
Do you like Raisinets? Do you like chocolate covered raisins?
If I'm at a movie,
I do.
I usually go snow caps.
Oh, you like snow caps?
Yeah,
oh, yes.
But I have.
Oh, I love snow cows.
But I'm just trying to think. The only times I've ever had Raisinets, I think, was at a movie theater.
I've always loved chocolate covered raisins. And then when the big thing was yogurt covered for a while, I would always get those. But I like chocolate covered raisins.
Yeah, well, I do too. But I don't think in my life, I've bought two boxes of Raisinets outside the movie theater.
No, it's not something I get at the grocery store or the Quickie Mart. When I'm diving in there, it's usually going to be like a Snickers or a Kit Kat or something like that, or Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Right.
It never occurs to me unless I'm in the movie theater, and maybe it's in the back of my mind. Raisinets.
Yeah. And I think there are certain things that are specific to a particular place. Raisinets are specific to the movie theater. Raisinets and a 63-gallon Coke.
Oh, God, please, no. An extra tub of popcorn, just what I need. It makes me really now want to go to Gorman Chinese Theater, walk in the movie theater and say Raisinets and see if anybody gets it.
Oh, I bet that is a staple at Grumman's. Well, or I guess at LTC or whatever it is now.
Yeah, well, generationally, it's like some people would get that joke, and some people wouldn't. It depends on who the general manager or who's in the theater at the time would get that. Somebody older than me would get that, maybe. The general manager probably has more pimples on his face than I do. Probably wouldn't get it.
Look at that's more of a statement about you getting older.
Yes, it is.
It's always been young people running.
It's all right. Yeah, it says a lot about me and them. I don't know, but it's all right.
And let me go ahead and just start off before we continue any further. We actually had a technical glitch, and Chris was not able to finish up with us in this minute, but he's been a fantastic guest this entire week. I mean, 3.5 basically of the minutes, Walt, and I'm still amazed. I mean, I know we're still got more to talk about in this minute, but it was really cool to have him join us for the time he did have.
And he's been a great friend to the show, too. Both of us have been talking to him offline about personal issues and his family and our families and stuff like that. So we really do appreciate him joining us and being a part of the show and possibly even doing some stuff with us in the future.
Yeah, he did say that whatever movies we're doing next, if there's a way for him to help, if he's got a contact, a relationship or something, to just hit him up. And he's been very responsive already. So we really appreciate that kind of support.
Absolutely.
We now take you back to the Wilder ride.
All right, so when we so now that we move on from the Raisinets, we actually see Hedley decides, okay, it's time to go duck into the theater. Walt, I got a question for you. We already talked about the fact that this is like the premiere. They had the searchlights going. They had the marquee. At least it made it look like it was a premiere, right? Like the not a very full theater.
No, it's not. They did not do a good job of getting the word out. Now, maybe the fact that the movie's not complete yet
maybe
might kind of keep the crowds away.
Maybe that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing that what would later become the new technology in Spaceballs, right?
That's right.
We're seeing the first signs of it here. It didn't quite sell the way they wanted it to.
That's right. Now the cattle showed.
The cattle are there. Now we did also remember earlier we saw the clock inside the box office. It's 11 o'clock at night, which may be a little late for a premiere.
It might be, and this might be the second premiere.
Maybe this is the second showing. Like they packed it with the first showing, and these are the dregs of the people that showed up late, and they were said, if you stay. We're going to do another showing around 11 o'clock.
Right. They had like the stars and the stuff. This is like the key grip and his wife.
The crew and family.
The best boys assistant is back at the back there.
Stand in. In fact, the biggest celebs so far are the ones in the lobby grazing behind the rope.
Well, they have been in a couple scenes.
Well, we were in the movie. I was in a movie. A movie.
Gosh, now I feel like I'm back doing Top Secret again.
Why are we always in such a bloody hurry? Hold on. Little calf is out there.
Ridiculous.
Well, so we cut inside the theater, and here's another, I think, and you have to listen to it, Walt, too, but I think this is another voiceover thanks to our good director, Mel Brooks.
I think so, too.
Because as he's reaching for a seat, we've got the guy, this older gentleman, in the far bottom corner of the frame, and as Hedley goes to sit, he's like he's going to sit in the guy's lap, and we hear what sounds like Mel Brooks going,
"Hey, what the hell?"
Yeah, totally incomprehensible what he's saying, but he kind of mumbles something and gets his attention.
And, of course, Hedley's like, oh, sorry. And he just moves up one more row and sits down and opens up his Raisinets and starts to kick back and relax in the movie theater.
So have you ever had that happen to you or done that to somebody else?
Where someone's about to sit on me?
Yeah, you come into the movie late. And
no, I have gone up the wrong row before.
Yeah, I've done
and
that
then I'm
too.
like, oh, I got to go all the way back now.
Yeah. I actually had somebody almost sit on me one time in a theater. I think it was at Jaws.
Was he blind or
no? But he came in late, and when you come in from outside,
super bright,
it's the blinding light, and then you walk in, and in the old theaters you wouldn't really walk through a big lobby a lot of times. Some of the smaller cineplexes, and so I guess he came straight in from outside. Walked in the theater, it was already dark, and he almost sat on me.
Oh, this feels like it's a comfy chair. This one's got padding.
Well, at the time, it was a little bit different, but I was half the man I am now.
Well, that's true because you said it was Jaws. No, this was like a
Yeah, this would have probably been, I don't know, second run, probably around 1980.
Oh, so you were a lot younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not current Walt.
No, not
former
current Walt. No, they might not even notice sitting on me now.
Well, he goes to sit in the next chair, and what I love is he's basically got his Raisinets. He's getting ready to crack some open. And I guess the movie must be midway through. So he's coming in. They're letting him buy a ticket to go to a movie that's already playing because he looks up at the screen and suddenly we get the hero music and here's Sheriff Bart.
Yep, he realizes what's going on and he knows he's in trouble.
Yeah. We see Sheriff Bart turn the corner. It's kind of a neat framing. You've got the curtains, make it look like you're in the theater. Not very widescreen compared to what we're used to today.
No, but it does definitely let you know that he's watching this on the screen.
Right. He recognized he was just standing out there a few minutes ago.
And this isn't you just seeing him come up, but this is Hedley watching it on the screen.
Right.
So I think that's a cool effect.
I've always loved this idea of watching the movie that you're actually in that's not quite done yet, and he's coming to see the ending.
Yeah, it's really funny and set in this context of essentially a cowboy movie that's now broken all the walls. Now you've got time bending going on. And so it does show you kind of the depths of Mel Brooks' ability as a writer and to be able to conceive of all this in his head is really pretty cool. You know,
we mentioned this, I think it was yesterday in the minute that, why would Hedley even bother going to the movie theater? And the idea was, well, maybe he just wants to know how this is all going to end. He can kick back, relax in the theater and say, well, do I win? Do I lose? Apparently, he's freaked out when he realizes Bart's waiting for him outside.
Yeah, it ain't looking so good.
In fact, I didn't realize how many Raisinets he must have stuffed in his mouth. But do you see the spray? It's like a mini shotgun
like
spray of Raisinets.
He really loves Raisinets.
Apparently. Because it doesn't look like he got them all out. Because when you see that little spray, he's like,
yeah, he kind of garbles
it. Like he's still got a bunch in his mouth. It's almost like the direction was stuff as many as you can in your mouth and action.
Yes.
And he spits what he could out, and he's still got a mouthful.
And still, he's like a chipmunk with nuts stored in his
and I certainly feel for the person that's sitting in front of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the poor Best Boy's mom who's...
Especially, back in the 70s, got like the bouffant teased hair, maybe. She might not even realize until she gets home that she's got all this like creamy, chocolatey
bad. She's
raisins.
Gonna tease it out.
You get attacked by like birds and rats on the way home. So Hedley, after finding his seat, doesn't spend much time. He's going to bolt out of there.
Yep, he's man on the run now.
He's gone. He heads out from the very same theater door we saw him walk in just a few seconds ago where the people were outside measuring their footprints. I guess the people left.
I guess so.
They didn't stick around very long.
Yeah, well, they probably went in and sat down in the...
Well, the movie apparently...
No,
but the movie was already... Maybe they went to a different movie.
Yeah, probably. They went to Jaws.
Or maybe they walked up the street. They couldn't afford the ticket prices at Grumman's Chinese Theater.
Yeah, no, they probably couldn't.
She just was there to check my footprints, and look, I met Hedy. That's Hedley.
Hedley. So why does he step around the carpet instead of just walking straight across the carpet there?
I don't know. It's like he purposely goes a little wide in the turn, and I have no idea why.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean...
It almost looks purposeful because he looks down.
Yeah, it is. And, his footsteps are not too loud. I mean, there's no joke to it or anything. No. I'm not really sure why he did that.
No. Unless just he was trying to hit a different mark and thought it would look better to walk straight to it rather than cut across on an angle. I don't know.
I guess.
But for whatever reason, I want to point something out because a couple of sound noises we're going to hear because we hear off screen, we hear freeze, and he makes the weirdest...
So
it's
strange.
Like it's the human version of slamming your brakes. Like,
yep.
I don't know where that noise comes from.
No, it's funny.
It's very funny. Like,
and it's so out of character for him too because he is much more composed and formal and everything, and then to make that weird.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I'll point out, and if you look right around second 31 into about 33 and a half, 34, just as he's about to come to a stop, his coat lapel opens, or his coat jacket opens just wide enough. You can see the little white handle of his Derringer.
Yep, I noticed that.
Until we started slowing things down, I don't know that I ever paid attention to the fact that you could actually see he's armed. Now it makes me wonder, is his angle just enough that Sheriff Bart didn't recognize that? Because Sheriff Bart's about to get played.
I think so, because Sheriff Bart's over on the other side.
Yeah, but he's kind of like meeting him. Like if one, it's kind of hard the way the angle is.
But that is a small gun.
It is,
and he may not necessarily even be looking for it.
True. Just sees Hedley coming out really, really fast and coming to a
they
stop.
just happen to both come up at the same time.
But the voice of Sheriff Bart,
freeze it,
and he's like telling him,
"Okay, Lamarr, go for your gun."
Yeah, and I think he is coming up hard enough on the side that he might not have seen that.
Well, obviously he's not going to see it no matter what. I mean, he can't for the script. For us, the angle, I almost feel like you should have caught it.
Probably should have.
He was walking so fast, Hedley coming out, you can't help but see the handle a couple of times before he comes to a stop.
He's not an experienced lawman. He's kind of new to the game.
That's true. He is fairly new.
And he wasn't a gunfighter before. He was a railroad worker.
Right.
So the Waco Kid might have noticed it because he's used to gunplay. But Sheriff Bart might not have.
Well, I love what we're getting here in terms of the Western. We're back to, even though now we're in 1974. Right. But every Western, when you've got a good guy and a bad guy, you've got to get the duel.
Absolutely. You got the showdown.
And this is it. This is the standoff between the two principal characters, the main bad guy, the main good guy.
This is their OK Corral.
This is that moment. This is on Main Street with the tumbleweed going by. I almost wish there was a crumpled newspaper or something that kind of went blowing by to symbolize that tumbleweed.
And maybe like some town folk in the background that go running inside.
Everybody closing the doors and closing the windows, the shades.
Yep. The popcorn guy closing the door. Yes. That would have been great. That would have been a nice touch.
Yeah, a little touch. It is obviously late at night. You can tell because of the lighting and everything. But Bart does, I think, he's trying to be honorable because when he goes, "Go for your gun," and Hedley goes,
Wait, I'm unarmed.
And they're like, "Okay, fine,
all right, we'll settle it like men with our fists."
Do you think that was the suitable thing that Bart should do after all that's been happening, all they went through, all of the rigmarole? I mean,
I wouldn't trust Hedley as far as I could throw him.
See, neither would I.
I would have just put the gun on him, put him in cuffs, and hauled him out. But I would not trust that man as far as I could throw him. I would have assumed that he had hidden a gun. But you're right. I mean, Bart is trying to do the honorable thing. And it's Bart being Bart, because all through the movie we've talked about how he always assumes the best about people.
True.
He assumes that people are being honest with him, and that he basically takes people at face value.
That's true. And he does want to do the, I guess at this time, and I know maybe now in the time of 2019 podcast recording, this idea of male macho, we're going to be like mano a mano, we'll make it a fist fight to see who's the better man.
Yes.
That may be a little more passé today for some, but that's a typical male type thing. All right, fine. Yeah. We'll see who's really the best.
Yep, absolutely.
He does put his gun down, and as soon as he does, and he puts it down in front of him and kind of gives himself a little room to kind of get ready to, like, I guess, tumble.
Right.
And that's when Hedley's pulls that little smarmy, and he does such a good job with that little smarmy smile.
Does.
Sorry, I just remembered. I am armed.
Well, my goodness.
Oh, my. Well, fiddle-dee-dee.
Yeah. I'm armed with the worst possible weapon for this kind of situation.
Well, did we talk about when we first mentioned the Derringer, it was really only effective within 4 to 10 feet?
Yeah, it's not a very accurate gun.
Bart is technically just out of that range already, and if you start moving and jumping around, which we're going to see here in a second, maybe explains how Hedley can't hit Bart that close.
No, and you can even see what he has to go through to cock the gun and get it ready to shoot.
Well, and I'll give Harvey Korman credit on this one. He at least cocks it this time.
Yes, he does. I think they fired blanks because you can also see the smoke.
There's definitely, and I think he had no choice but to cock the hammer for that blank to fire. You've got to. Whereas when they were out in the desert and head them off at the pass, and he shoots Taggart, he just pointed it down, and when he shot the guy, he just pointed it. The hammer wasn't even pulled back when he shot the guy in line.
Yeah, and they could ADR that sound effect in.
Well, as we've noted from many of these episodes, a lot of extra gunfire added when there wasn't actually any gun shot going off.
Yes.
So we've got now the actual draw. Rather than draw on the count of 3, we've got Hedley once again changing the rules, right? I mean, the rules are we're gonna draw on the count of 3, or we're gonna draw on when the bell, when the clock strikes 12 or whatever.
Right.
10 paces in turn, whatever. The gentleman rules. Obviously, Hedley is not a gentleman.
No, he
acts
is
like
not
one.
a gentleman. He's a snake.
He's a snake. He is a sidewinder.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. A sidewinder, a bushwhacker.
Yeah. Hornswaggler.
Not an honorable man at all.
No. All the things that Gabby Johnson was talking about way, way back in the church.
That's right.
This is a pretty cool stunt because it is with blanks, and it is Cleavon doing this. Harvey Korman cocks the gun. We get the reverse, a different angle. We get, instead of the angle showing just Harvey shooting at Bart kind of off screen, because a second ago it was all just on Harvey Korman. We get the camera swinging around to show the two of them. Bart dives for his gun just as Harvey pulls his trigger. He rolls, and Harvey goes to actually shoot again, if you notice.
Yes, he does.
Now, nothing goes off. He makes the motion, but there's no smoke.
Yeah, he would have actually had to cock the hammer on the second chamber there to get it to go again.
And whether it was a misfire, which could have been. But there was no smoke, so he didn't get the second shot off. He tried to.
Right.
But Bart gets off a great shot. Manages to dive, roll, pick up his gun, aim, maybe a little lower than expected, but still manages to hit the target.
What'd you call it? The giblets?
I said the doodads.
The doodads. Yeah, there you go.
Hit him in the doodads.
Yeah, well, and he got his comeuppance.
And although Chris is not with us, let's remind the joke he even said earlier in the minute here, and wrapped up last minute, because I think he loved that joke. And he's like, I almost wish that it was live ammo. I would have had less relatives and more money.
There you go. Chris.
Chris. That's family love right there.
It sure is. It sure is.
Sibling love, half sibling, step sibling, invented sibling, whatever your siblings are.
Whatever they are.
Whoever takes the money, like, ah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, he gets hit right in the cojones.
He does. Not your best moment in life.
And unfortunately, this is where the minute ends, with him in like mid grunt going, ee! Which I hate, because it goes right into tomorrow, but that's going to be fine. We're going to continue talking about it on Friday. But yeah, the bad guy just got shot.
He did. And that's where we leave off.
That's the end of this minute here. Now we've still got a lot coming. I say a lot. We still have several minutes left before then. Not even several. This is minute number 89. So tomorrow's minute number 90.
We wrap it up next week.
So there's 3 minutes left for next week.
That's crazy.
I will tease who's coming up here in just a minute, but we always do this as we kind of are wrapping up the minute. We went through this pretty quickly, but is there anything in your notes for this minute number 89? Anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to recap, go back through?
No, I think the only thing that I was going to mention, not really a recap, but just I really like that they ended the arc with the shootout, because it is the classic Western cowboy thing. You have the satisfaction of the bad guy getting it. And as we've talked about before, this is the only death in the movie.
Well, no, that's actually the second death.
The second death, yeah.
Because
that's right.
Hedley kills the dude online.
We assume he killed him.
Yeah, well, we saw him fall.
Yeah, so this is only, so...
But as far as a principal character?
Yes.
He's the only principal character, yeah.
Right, and so we have the satisfaction that we get from all the other Westerns of seeing the bad guy get it. So...
And I do like... because when we started this minute, we had the scene... Everyone obviously left for whatever reason, because it is a completely barren by the end of the minute. Because in that opening shot, when we first started, you had the woman and her husband. She was saying that she's standing in Hedy Lamarr's shoes as Hedley walks by. You see an older couple where a man's doing the same thing with his wife. She's obviously standing in. And then there's another couple off to the side. And there's even a guy that you can kind of see behind the woman who's looking down.
Oh, yeah.
So there's it's kind of full when Hedley goes in. So that however that long to go walk in, get your Raisinets, go to sit down on someone's lap, move to the seat, spit your Raisinets, and then come out for a duel. Maybe we did have an outtake where everybody goes like, "Ooh, Bart showed up. Let's run."
Yeah. Well, and
the law is here.
The law. When the cops show up and guns come out, you don't want to stick around.
People scatter. So
yes, absolutely.
None of them are to be found when Bart comes up. But we can see, if you go back to the very beginning of the minute, that sort of Oriental style marquee that had the movie poster in it is where Bart actually comes up. So let's think about the geography for a second. We know that you could walk straight into the movie theater. We know Hedley's coming straight out in the end of the minute, but Bart is way over by that movie theater poster box. So was he hiding to wait just in case? Because we saw his horse pull up, same place where the cab pulled up. So Bart would have had to have gone completely off to the side to where he ends up meeting Hedley at the end of this minute.
Yeah, maybe he was checking the area out. Maybe he was clearing all the people out.
Maybe he was. And he was over there just to kind of make sure that, and in case somebody else came out that wasn't. You don't want to be sitting there with just guns drawn if it's an innocent person walking out.
No, you don't.
All right. As far as the rest of the minute, anything else you got?
No, I think that wraps it up.
No, that's it for me too. I do love, we mentioned this a couple of minutes ago, and it bears repeating how, Monty Python the next year would put out Holy Grail, and they would go for sort of that similar goofball ending of all of a sudden being in modern times. And a lot of people, if they may have seen Holy Grail first, and they go, "Oh, Mel Brooks copied," but no, Mel Brooks did it first. But I still argued back, and I still think Mel Brooks handled the time shift back to 1874 that we'll see next week so much better than the Monty Python movie.
I agree. I when I look at those two, and I've thought about this, and we've talked about it some. I don't think this is what happened, but in the Monty Python, you almost get the sense that they didn't know how to end it.
Right. It's like we've run out of material.
Yeah. This feels very intentional.
Right. And I think the discussions we've been having, and especially pointing out to people the number of different clothing eras being represented when they were in the movie theater, or in the sound stage, breaking into contemporary times, that really is saying this message applies across time. It doesn't belong just in the Old West.
Absolutely.
And so what's cool is we resolve the situation present day. And I like that the duel takes place in modern times, saying we got rid of the racist, bigoted bad guy in modern times. So, hey, you modern audience watching this movie for the first time, that's your message. That's hitting you over the head. You don't want to be Hedy Lamarr when you walk out of the theater.
That's right. Exactly right.
Because you might have Bart waiting for you.
There you go. There you go.
That's it. That's all I have. I just kind of wanted to I look for the sort of the more, literary kind of threads through this. And it's a goofball comedy. I will admit that. But I also think we've proven these guys were very smart that wrote this. And there's a lot in here if you just pay attention.
There really are. And we've talked about this with Young Frankenstein and now with this. And actually, if you go back and listen to some of our Patreon shows, when we went through Christmas Vacation, there aren't many layers to Christmas Vacation.
No.
I mean, it's just kind of a straightforward comedy.
It's all on the surface.
There. It is. There's no depth. So doing a movie like this versus doing a movie like that, I feel like I get a whole lot more out of it, and I hope our listeners do too. But I think the appreciation for the message that's there is a whole lot stronger.
Yeah.
When you see, basically like with Young Frankenstein, the humanity crashing against itself in a quest for survival. And then in this you have, a horrible thing of racism and, treating people the right way. So
and trying to find the vehicle. And maybe you could argue, maybe some, that ivory tower, professorial mentality would say it's kind of a simplistic way of dealing with a really complex problem.
Yes.
But you know what? Sometimes you need the simple answers first. Then you can deal with the complexities. Don't overmuck the machine. Where they say the more you mess up the pipe, the easier it is to stop up the drain.
Yes.
I think for a typical 74 audience, I think even today, maybe it's okay to have more of a simple, and I hate to say this, black and white message. It's pretty clear who the good guy is, pretty clear who the bad guy is, pretty clear how you're supposed to behave and how you're not supposed to behave. Let the shades of gray happen later. I think for this, I'm happy with the fact that it can hit you over the head and not even make you realize that, oh my gosh, I just walked out realizing I should treat people better.
Yeah. Well, and when you look at Sheriff Bart, he's a very likable guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to like his message too, right?
Right.
And so they did a genius job, and now he kills the bad guy. They could have had Gene kill the bad guy. The Waco Kid could have taken him out just as easily. Mongo could have taken him out. That would have been a pretty gruesome and grotesque way to go because I think Mongo would have pounded him into the concrete. But
mash him into little bitty meatballs.
Absolutely. And the townspeople could have. I mean, there are so many people who had it for Hedley. But the fact that the guy who was probably the most mistreated person in the movie gets his comeuppance against the one guy who was mistreating the most people.
But even if you want to go further in sort of like what it represents, he is law and order.
Yes.
He is the only one who can legitimately do that. And he didn't even try to shoot him. He was fired upon first.
That's right.
So he was actually in self-defense getting rid of the bad guy.
Yep.
So there's nothing bad about Sheriff Bart.
No. No, he is just a good guy.
I love this movie.
I do too.
It's so good. Well, we're talking all this literary and these themes and these elements. It makes sense that I'll introduce that coming up tomorrow, we're going to be joined by an actual author. Someone that's his career. He writes books for a living. Now, they're fantasy novels, but he is still a writer. So we're going to have J.W. Webb join us in studios. And before I tease what will be in minute number 90, what will be in the episode tomorrow, Walt, people have been listening to us for a little bit. Where can people learn a little bit more about our show and then maybe how to support it?
You would definitely want to go to our website, which is thewilderride.com. And from there, you will find everything you want to know about us, our biographies and where to connect with us online. Also, you'll find a link to Patreon, patreon.com/thewilderride. And there's some opportunities there for you to help out the show. This is a labor of love for us. We're big fans of these movies. We're big fans of Gene, but it can get a little expensive keeping the lights on, so to speak, because we have a website to host. We have a lot of content. We've got time during our days when Alan and I are making phone calls and trying to line up some guests and some travel time and all that fun stuff. So it's stuff that we love to do, but if you want to help us out and help defray some of those costs, there's some opportunities there. And some of those opportunities will get you some of our content like Christmas Vacation and Poltergeist, which we've covered so far. And then we've got some other movies coming up that we're going to also work on there. And also don't forget to join our listeners group. We've had a lot of people lately following us at The Wilder Ride. Mm-hmm. Jump on over there and look at the facebook.com/The Wilder Ride and then hit the button that says join
group,
join the listeners group. So it's a great place. A lot of folks talking about all kinds of fun stuff there.
And I know Chris has been with us for 3.5 of these 4 minutes, but let me go ahead and do a plug for him as well. There is a Thursday show that's out on a podcast as well. You can catch it on YouTube. You can catch it on your podcatcher of choice called TV Confidential. Go check that out. And he's actually got a public group. It's not a closed listeners group, but he's got a public group called Burnett's Bananas for those who loved, the Carol Burnett Show, Tim Conway, Harvey Korman, and all of those. And just do a quick Google, inside of Facebook, do Burnett's, like Carol Burnett, Burnett's Bananas, and it will come up, and then you can join that, and then you can be part of the same conversations we're having all the time about all these famous older actors that were hits in the 60s and the 70s on television.
Yeah, and TV Confidential is a really good podcast. I've been listening the last couple of days. And then actually my stepmother tonight, I had dinner with her and my dad, and we were talking about having Chris on, and she was like, oh my gosh, I need to listen to that. And I was like, wait a minute, why aren't you already caught up? Well, and of course I got a great look. And but anyway,
some things just speak for themselves.
Yeah, she was just raving about Harvey Korman and Tim Conway. So
I really liked the episode, except you guys talked too much. Yeah. You didn't let him talk.
Let that Chris guy get a word in edgewise.
Well, come on back tomorrow, Friday. We're going to be wrapping up this week on minute number 90. Author J.W. Webb will be our guest. And we're going to start with the continuation of Hedley's fall. In fact, as he falls, he's going to be looking down and talk about how did he do such wonderful stunts with such little feet. And we are going to end with the entire town of Rockridge. We're going to go back to 1874, Walt, and they're all going to reply in some unison, bullshit. Gosh. Oh, like once again, I say this, I think, every episode. A lot must happen tomorrow.
I guess so.
But to find out what goes on between that and to join us, you're going to come back tomorrow for this, The Wilder Ride.
So is there a way to bulletproof my giblets?
Yeah, that's, I don't know. That would be a bad way to go.
That would be the worst way
That's
to
like
go.
the RoboCop shot, remember in the first RoboCop?
Yeah.
When he's holding that woman hostage, the punk, and he calculates the skirt and managed to know where her legs were split, and he shoots the dude right in the doodads.
That's a nasty way to go out.
Oh, yeah, because you don't go out right away.
No,
it takes a bit.
And
even if you recover,
horrifying. What do you ever really recover?
Oh, thankfully, I don't have to worry about that. Way too short.
Small target.
Aim small, miss small. Minute 89, one. Oh, I just lost my train of thought.
Minute at a time.
No, not 1 minute. Hold on. I got it.
Is there any other place that you would go and get Raisinets?
Quiet that dog down. We're recording.
Hey, I'm getting paid extra for that.
Hey, that's production value.
Okay.
It's like sound effects. We're going to put that in after. The po-po.
Well, and who was the gangster that got gunned down by the FBI outside the movie theater?
Well, now I'm going to cut
not
that.
Pretty Boy Floyd.
I don't know.
Well, anyway.